I totally believe in karma. I have seen this stuff work. I've sat in court too many times with other guys or myself and seen exactly this stuff operate. I went to a place about 12 hours north of here with an Indian fellow that has a reserve school. You know, he was in one of those, what do they call them, schools they put the Indians in, like a reform school, right? You know, he has reform school education. The man's always told him what he can do and what he can't do. You know, he had a very child attitude and was always looking at, oh, I got to do this or I got to do that because somebody said so. And I worked with this man, and we went up to Williams Lake together, and I went into court with him, and, you know, he got a discharge. And this man stood at court, and I was nervous for him because, you know, there's his language and the English language, the translation, the intimidation of the court. It was that Superior Court, which here, or Supreme Court here, which is our court of inherent jurisdiction, where they can see a man. Thank God for that. So you know, he's standing there. We negotiated with the prosecutor through writing beforehand. He wasn't ready to hold his own court, and I knew it. But he was willing to if he had to. So before we made a claim or anything, we negotiated, and then his day was coming up, and the prosecutor caved, man. He caved hard, but he had still certain things he wanted to hold. And I'm sitting on the edge of my seat in this courtroom, and of course they're going on with all their bullshit back and forth, blah 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 blah. And the judge looks over at Gilbert, and she says, "Gilbert, what is your wish?" And Gilbert did exactly what I taught him. He looked down at the floor, and he held his finger up in the air, and then he looked up at the woman acting as a magistrate, and he says, "It is the wish of I that the Crown discharge the charges." This woman almost jumped out of her robe. And I watched her, and this is what when I tell guys about flipping the court, because there's, you know, a win is a win. Whether you're holding your own court, whether you flip the judge, whether you flip the court, I was beside myself. It was just poetry. But I watched this woman acting as the magistrate there, the Supreme Court judge. She all of a sudden turned on that prosecutor and started defending him. And he got a discharge that day. It was a beautiful moment. And that, I mean, that's one of a few where I've been in. And you guys were talking about, like, the state courts, you know, the legislative courts. That's the way I like to put those courts. You know, all those legislative courts, under their statutes and act, they can't hear a man. You've got no standing there. Anytime you're at a court like that, the best way is to figure your way out of it. You know, like up here, I got a buddy, and I think he's on the call right now. You know, they have him in what they call up here a provincial court, which is just it's one of our lowest courts actually, but they have they have the power to fine and imprison or jail, not in prison. Gus knows that difference for sure. So anyways, I'm like, we got to get you out of that court. Now up here, you know, there's a number of ways to do this. Of course, I knew we were going to have to make our own claim. I knew that right from get-go, and I did mention that to the guy. You know, he went into court and he tried. You know, he went into court with his paper, and he didn't really try to stand on his notice. They just knocked him off and knocked him around. But up here, like, we'll use the legal form to knock him over. He has a right up here to get this heard in a court of inherent jurisdiction. I've touched base with him a couple of times. We'll use that legal form. Now, how we use the legal form depends. You know, I would like to give a notice and attach the legal form and use it for the ease of filing purpose and get this evoked over to a court of inherent jurisdiction where a man can be heard and he has standing. But anyways, you know, I'm sitting here listening to these guys and I'm going, yes, yes, yes. I haven't talked to Gus in a long time, I think since Ion died. And I'm on a lot of these groups, and these guys are right. Like, there's all this bickering and arguing about stupid shit that just doesn't matter going on. And it's so boring, so I barely get on any of these groups anymore. It's just like, my God, you guys, after all this time, like, it's still the same thing. Like, I did a film for YouTube the other day, just going back to the person, just to try and simplify this whole person thing with people, you know? Because a person is a man. A person is a man. Or a man is not a person, but a person is a man. And you can't have a person without the man, and it is joiner. And if I ascribe to something and to some society or something, that is the person that I'm operating on. That person cannot operate without the man. It is not fictional. It is real. It is real. Even, people say, well, it's a persona, it's an act, it's a mask. Yeah, but the mask is a dance for itself. It takes a man or a woman to actually make that thing move.
It's a tool.
Yeah.
It's a wrench, a hammer.
Once you understand how to use the person, you can move the person any way you wish. One thing that people got to understand is, when they go and sign for things and sign for different governmental persons, like if you notify them, you're really signing an agreement with yourself, okay? And so everybody knows a contract has to have the meeting of the minds, right?
Yeah.
Well, where does the mind meet? It meets with myself when I'm signing an agreement with myself. Well, if I'm signing an agreement with myself, and this only works for governments, this does not work for corporations and banking stuff, but this works for governments because they are there to service and provide for you. And you can inform them how you wish that person is, like how you wish that person to be created or perceived. And they're never, ever going to argue with you, because then they would have to admit that it exists. They have to admit what they're doing.
Yeah, like today I was helping a friend write a letter and to a public servant, and I wrote it. It was very, very lovely, very courteous. It was a great little letter. And basically, any of these things that the government offers us is a benefit. And there's a reason that they give us the benefit, because we're from here. And they're operating on our land. And so they offer benefits that we can join into the corporate body politic if we wish. If we don't wish, we don't have to. And just because I get a hunting license doesn't mean I have to act as a hunter 24/7. That doesn't mean I still can't forage, which is my God-given right, to forage for my necessities. People can't. They think, oh, you've got a driver's license, so you're stuck being a driver any time that you go from point A to point B with your car. No, that's not true. And how many guys I've seen write a letter to the state or to the province or motor vehicles or whatever, saying, no, I wasn't under contract at that time, and then watch the tickets disappear. Simple. It's your choice how you wish to use the benefit. I have a number of persons or benefits that I signed up for with the government, but I don't operate all of them. And to have somebody just come in and say, hey, you're in violation of this. Well, sorry, I'm not acting as that right now. Not that I'm going to have the big argument with the guy, whole court on the side of the road or anything. Now, the type of court they drag you into, the administrative court that they bring you into, is, I try to get it across to people that these are like military tribunals. Okay, you're one of their employees, or you're one of their privates, and you're going in, and these officers are saying that you did this and you did that, and the officer is perfect, because I know the office of the officer is perfect, as best as they can get it, and so they're saying you do wrong. So for me to go into one of their tribunals and say not guilty is actually a dishonor to myself. Right? Nope. For me to go in and act at that court is a dishonor to myself. So I try to correct it by writing letters and notices. And these are letters and notices in a manner that if I ever ended up in a trial and my letters or notices went before a jury, no matter what court it's in, the jury's going to say, well, geez, he asked you this, he asked you that, he begged you for this, or not begged, but, and like you're just kicking this guy's ass, which is wrong. And I can show the manner of man I am. And those are my exhibits for the wrong that's being done. And that's where I go over to a common law court, or at least a court of inherent jurisdiction. Even on the legal side, I've seen, I hate to use the word remedy, but I've seen, satisfaction. I've seen justice even on the legal side at a court of inherent jurisdiction where the judge does wear many hats.
Well, it's important to note, too, that there's different things and there's different beliefs on that, too. But like, just for instance, I'm glad you brought up the military tribunal, because there's a lot of misunderstanding, and this is a personal thing. I'm not dragging JC in on this, although I think he probably agrees. there's a huge movement on the birth certificate, beneficiary, trustee relationship thing, and they're saying you can't be a trustee and a beneficiary at the same time, and what's the relationship? And in reality, if you're using the Social Security number, it says right in the Social Security Act that you are listed as an auxiliary beneficiary, which is no different than a women's auxiliary at the fire department. You're not a fireman. It's not. The Social Security number was created for the benefit of Congress, not us. That's why you're gifting 100% of your earnings to the person and pledging to be a surety for the debt of the United States, whereby as that acting as a citizen, although you're not, because nobody went into court and swore an allegiance to the United States, which is what is necessary to be a U.S. citizen. You can't be a U.S. citizen just by getting a Social Security number or just by getting a driver's license. That's not how it works. But once you do that, you're acting as a holder of public office, which is why everywhere that's chartered and every business has federal OSHA regulations, minimum wage requirements, and all those things posted right there for everybody to see, because technically you're acting as a federal employee. So you are literally surrendering 100% of your earnings and your life when you're acting under that title. And it is absolutely in military jurisdiction, which is exactly why things get dismissed. They can call it back up, just like any officer can dismiss you, and that's the difference between law and statutes or codes. You know, in common law, something is discharged, like your credit card. You discharge it. It's not charged anymore. There is nothing there. If you're dismissed, your lieutenant can bring you back.
I'm glad you mentioned that. Now, just because I possess an SIN number to benefit within that part of that society doesn't necessarily mean that there's a law that forces me to act under that 24/7. I didn't give up my manhood or my privacy to act under that number. Now, if I wish to
you're
use
using it to work, you do.
But if I don't wish to use it, I don't have to use it. Nobody can force me because servitude is outlawed. Slavery in all its forms are outlawed in this land. You can't force me into servitude just because I applied for begged for a benefit from the government. You know?
Well,
now,
that's volunteering.
If I wish to act as an employee, I'll use it, and I'll give them their 15 or 30% or whatever they want. You know, but just because I possess that, it's not mine; it's theirs. And if I don't use it, like I did this winter, a contract came up, and these guys, I had done some small jobs for them, and this land developer came up, and he says, "Look, Al, I got a contract here. It's like $45,000. You know, you want to do it?" And I said, "Yeah, well, I'll talk to my niece's husband. You know, if he's willing, because I can't do the job myself. I'm too old, too crippled." I says, "But if he's willing, I'll put a crew together and come up and deal with it." Now, I did that on a handshake with a major land developer with no invoices. Everything was on a handshake deal, word of mouth. Now, it doesn't put me under their legislation. It doesn't put me under an SIN. And any add-ons I did put onto those guys when I did invoice them, it was tax exempt and it was due compensation due, fair and just compensation due. You know, you can't tax compensation. They even tell you that if you're on compensation, you go to the bank and you try to get a loan or a mortgage, they'll say, "Well, no, we can't use that. We can't use that as income because it's not income." But yeah, that SIN, I didn't sell my soul to the devil just because I applied for an SIN number when I was a kid. If I use it, then there's certain ways to act as a taxpayer under that number. If I don't use it, why are you bothering me? It's a voluntary compliance. It even says so in your own books, right? I don't wish to volunteer or comply at this time.
Hey, just curious if anybody's got any questions that they'd like to throw out there.
Like, this is your opportunity.
I love you guys, man, and I just love hearing your success on your court, and you know, just having the balls to go stand. It takes a lot of balls, guys. It does, but you know, don't let them know you're nervous. Simple as that. Keep your composure. Work for me. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, let somebody else talk. Thanks again, guys.
There was one question that keeps coming up. Have these guys held their own court yet? You know, one of the biggest beefs I have with KL is you know, him going around telling everybody it's so simple, it's scary, and he's typically talking about opening up your own court, carrying a claim, a court of record, the jury, your trial by jury. So if you put the pieces together, which it sounds like he's talking about, the part that's so simple and scary is you just put a claim into a common law court, carry it through a trial by jury, a court of record, and you'll end up with a judgment that's executable against whoever it is that's the wrongdoer. And I've heard this over and over again for 4 years. I've been contacted by people who got a hold of him for that purpose, who, nobody got what they were looking for. And it doesn't mean they didn't get resolution, okay? I mean, I learned a shit ton of stuff, but not that. And, what I ended up using in my gun case in 2015 was Acts 25:16, okay? I required to face my accuser, period. And until I face my accuser, we aren't talking about anything else. But the question that I've seen on the board as you guys have been talking is, have these guys held their own court yet?
Oh, hey, I'm glad you brought that up. Man, am I ever glad you brought that. I know personally, a couple of guys that did get their own courts. All right.
Well, I've gotten my own court. I've filed stuff and got my own court. They stamp my paperwork, but there always seems to be some roadblock before you get to a jury. And I've not heard of anybody getting an executable judgment that they were able to take to the sheriff and say, execute this.
No, the judges, nobody shows up. You show up, and a judge slams the gavel down and runs out the door. I've seen that a number of times. So here's one of Cale's tricks, guys, and this is where he does succeed on this. What he does is, and this is why he gives people crap for not getting their case filed. The trick that he uses is he gets his case filed, and then he puts his claim in their case file. He serves it to them, and so on and so forth. In Bali's case, they just put it in the other guy's case file and had it heard at the same time, and that guy could have turned around and said, hey, man, I haven't had time to deal with this or whatever, and that would have put him, that would have, changed the whole game right there. But you get your case filed, you make sure the other side's served, and you put that your file, your claim in their file. They have been served on this, and then you petition, or not so much petition, but you're asking for your court to be held at the same time for the proper reasons. Now, when you do that, if the judge slams a gavel or roadblocks you or runs out of the court, then that means everything is off. So they lose theirs too, right? It nullifies it.
Yeah, but if I take you to court and I open up a claim against you, and I call you the wrongdoer, I'm the claimant, and I serve you, what do we do? Okay, how do you get that? How do I get my claim heard in a court of record at common law through a jury, a trial by jury, all the way to judgment, where the judge, the clerk, witness it, sign off, I bring it to the sheriff, and he goes and executes whatever that judgment is.
All right. Here's the answer for you guys. All right. Shaman and I are not very comfortable talking about our experiences. We told you guys what we told you. Now I'm going to give you a secret. All right. If you have two other witnesses, when you are filing your claim, what you do is you take it to the magistrate with the two witnesses, and y'all all testify and put a declaration in there. All right? And when three people testify to the same facts upon a record of a court, and you guys, y'all talk about this court of record stuff. I don't care about the record. The court of record, whose court is it? It's your court. Whose record is it? It's your record. If you take a record down there, you have a court of record. You wish for a court of law.
Yep.
Okay? So when you have a court of law and you open your own record and you are down there and three people testify to the same facts, okay, either the wrongdoer has to pay you like you can move a judgment for, like against them with the man sitting up on the bench, you know, or you can move a judgment in front of the jury. Because the facts upon the record, that's what's solid. That's what people aren't doing, okay? They're not going down there in multiples and putting facts on the record at the same time. Does that answer the question?
Oh, yeah.
You're declaring.
Yeah, I don't go to court without witnesses, and anybody that I'm working with, I make sure that they have.
What I'm saying is that when you actually file the claim,
yeah,
okay,
I hear you.
You go and you take people and you file it with the magistrate, and you open up the court right there, and you go ahead and you place the facts on the record viva voce with your voice and with the voice of the others.
That is the court. It's right there.
Somebody just asked if you guys had done that yet.
What did we just say in this answer? I just said Shaman and I are not comfortable speaking about our experiences.
Well,
and then I gave you that answer. Yeah, I mean, we're only going to let out what we wish to let out at the time we wish to let it out. Okay? So if it's a question in law, we're going to answer it. And that's the way I took that question.
Just going to wait a few more years again like we had to do with Karl, huh?
Nope. He just gave you the answer. We're just not telling you how we did it. We're not telling you about the specific anything. We're telling you the answer. You just got the answer. Karl never gave you that. We just told you. You didn't wait 10 seconds. He just gave you the answer. That's what you do. We're just not going to tell you it was Jimmy versus Nellie. And then we went on Sunday at 2 o'clock, and I had red underwear on. He just gave you the answer, brother.
And if y'all want to keep saying those other things, then I don't got to be here. You know? That's cool with me. I got better things to do. Like, the reason I got out of groups like this was because of all of the infighting. And the thing I did is I went down to a law library, and I spent years figuring this stuff out on my own.